computer.
Okay, I'll re-forward this to Dennis. See.
I think maybe you could start, Katie.
Okay. All right, so REACH Early Intervention Therapies program here at REACH. So we provide speech language pathology, occupational therapy, and physiotherapy for children birth to kindergarten entry who live in Delta. So the services could be consultation, direct therapy, and or group therapy. And lots of our kids are kind of, their therapy might vary over time depending on their needs. So they may at any given time, depending on their other programs they're involved in, have access to different types of services through us. How we work: family-centered, individualized, responsive, and experts in our field. This is how families find us. So a lot of our referrals we find come through the infant development program. The pediatrician, family physician referrals are probably the next highest. We get a lot of transfers from public health when they meet the child and find out that that child maybe has more going on than just, we call it speech only. So we see the speech plus kids who have more than one issue going on. So they might either need physiotherapy, occupational therapy, or they're involved in multiple of our programs, and so they get transferred over to us. Something interesting right now is that because public health, all of the speech language pathologists have been redeployed to be contact tracers. We're finding that we don't, we're not getting the same numbers through public health. So that's, it's interesting right now. The ways families are accessing our services can be a little bit different. So the team, there's myself, program coordinator. So I've been an SLP for 15 years and I've been at REACH for 3. Anwar Al-Haq is our program assistant. We have 4 SLPs, Joanne, Trisha, Kim, and Kathleen. And you can see Trisha did not want her photo. She sent one of her dog. And you can see here from our team, once I go through everyone especially, but for our SLPs, we're really fortunate to have a very experienced group of clinicians working with us. And it makes a big difference to the level of service that we can provide for our families. We have 2 OTs, Christina and Christine, and 1 physiotherapist, Lauren, who is covering a maternity leave. And you can see here as well, our occupational therapists have lots of experience, and Christine in particular has been at REACH for a really long time. So we're very, very fortunate to have a really great team with a lot of experience and some amazing skills. So what do we do? So speech language pathologists provide assessment and treatment for communication. So this is things like understanding questions, following directions, using words, learning words, how to form a sentence, how to communicate with others. So eye contact, gestures, things like that. And then for children who are having trouble communicating, we also have assistive technology. So you can kind of see the 2 boards there. We use a lot of visuals for the kids. So this is a session that kind of would be more what you might picture as typical speech therapy, where we're working on sounds. Our sessions can look quite different depending on the kids and their skills. So I'll show you a few different ones, of a little snippet of a day in the life of what we do. This is me, I think.
Hey, Katie, this is obviously pre-COVID too, right?
This is obviously pre-COVID, yes. I didn't get any during COVID. So right now we have, you know, we're wearing masks. Well, so for speech, it's a little bit tricky. Typically we're wearing masks and shields in our sessions. We also have plexiglass, so that for speech therapy, we can have the shield and then the plexiglass barrier. because the kids really need to see our faces for us to do our jobs. So it's been pretty tricky that way, because we're always trying to figure out ways where we can still do our job, but do it safely with all the PPE we need to be wearing. So I'll play this one.
Is there volume to the video?
Oh, sorry, you guys can't hear it?
No.
Oh, sorry, that's not going to work very well then if it's not sharing the sound. I can always send the videos after.
Sure.
We're working on lemon. We're putting our tongues up and saying lemon. So we use games for a lot of what we do to really motivate the kids to want to participate and do the work that we need to do, and make it fun and make it meaningful for them. So occupational therapy, they help children to participate in daily activities such as eating, swallowing, dressing, sleeping, playing, hygiene, and fine motor skills. And if you know any OTs, they're pretty remarkable because they work on everything. So anything that would be a job for a kid, so like those things I mentioned would be what occupational therapists work on. So they might break down a skill, so you can see, let's get dressed. They're going to break that down into steps and help the kids to, work on those steps so that they can grow towards independently being able to do those skills on their own, or they'll help them figure out modifications to what they need to do in order to make them as successful as they can. So again, this is an OT session. This little guy is working on fine motor skills, so he's working on his printing. Again, I don't think the sound is going to show, so I'm not sure if we need to play the video, but he works on the N, and then he takes off the paper and it shows the N there, and what letter did you make? An N, and that's the first letter of his name. So it's very cute. I'm sorry that the videos didn't work.
That's okay. Are you sure this one won't work?
Let's try.
You never know.
Oh, there we go.
I heard sound for a second. Yeah. Something.
Still get away.
Yeah. Our OTs have been doing a lot of different groups with kids. They're finding that's been quite successful with parents to be able to work on skills, plan for their children, but also to talk to other parents who are going through the same things. So we've got toileting, picky eating, fine motor groups. Toileting and picky eating are kind of two of our bigger areas for OTs where we get referrals. And it's been really nice because we've been able to help the parents to plan or develop the goals for their children and then work through those. So this again shows a visual of what the different steps would be and how we'd break it down, and maybe what area do we need to help the children to learn in, and do they follow the visuals to and then some goals with the parents, some strategies so that they can help their children that way. We've had also a fine motor group, so the kids can practice their skills, so drawing, holding a pencil, cutting, some of the grasping to pick things up, and the kids are doing those in some really fun activities. And parents will help set the goals for these groups as well as be able to join or observe, depending on what the parents would like to do and how they like to learn. And then this was one of our picky eating groups. And so the kids are playing with Jell-O here and feeling different textures. This again was a group for parents and children, and to help them increase their tolerance of foods and different textures in a fun way. And parents were able to, help they made orange juice with oranges. They actually chopped up food. The kids got to really interact with the food, and it was really interesting to see how that helped to develop their interest in different foods and tolerance. We also had a time to move group, so that was occupational therapy and physiotherapy together. So they got to do kind of the switch between the fine motor and the gross motor activities. So here you can see cutting and gluing, and then there was some ball skills, and they're walking on the maze, and so that one was lots of fun. And again, the parents got to either come and observe or participate in that as well.
Are those weekly when you were running those?
They were. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they're usually weekly for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the group. And I think it might be in my next slide, but what we have moved to now are some virtual groups, and those actually have been really successful, especially for the picky eating, the toileting groups, because the parents, it really is helping the parents set the goals and then work through the strategies and discuss some ways that they can help their children, and then they kind of can talk to each other and learn from each other as to what's working, what they tried, what's not working. So it's actually been really successful, and then they don't have to have any childcare for those groups that are the parent component. So physiotherapy is working on gross motor development, and it can include assessing and assisting their movement, strength, balance, coordination, and endurance. So this was a little clip of a PT session. Sound there?
No, but it's okay with it.
With this one, it's, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, and then this was another one. Working for that juice.
Mhm.
So we also, through our physiotherapist, organizes a few times a year, depending on how many children need orthotics, but we organize the clinic depending. It's been in South Delta and in North Delta as well, depending on where most of the families are. So we help set that up so that the families don't have as far to go. I believe the clinic is actually in Vancouver, so instead of having to travel, we organize that for them. This is just a little snippet of our toy room in our Ladner office. So this kind of shows some of the materials and the things that we use on a regular basis. What you're missing on the one wall, oh, I think that's my volume. What you're missing on the one wall is a whole bunch of board games that we use a lot of. This is some of our equipment that would be used by the physiotherapist and occupational therapists. And they're quite big and bulky in there, but what is really beneficial, especially when we think of fundraising, is that a lot of this equipment is really expensive. And so we try to have equipment for families so that they don't have to buy it themselves. They can trial it before they use funding to buy things. And it really helps out in order to make sure that we get the right equipment for families. And we lend a lot of it out for when families need it short term. All right, so just a little bit about what some of our feedback from families has been from our family satisfaction survey. So just feeling grateful and blessed to be getting support through REACH. So happy with the services provided and the progress we're seeing in our son. We're always sent home with goals and strategies. We couldn't have done this on our own, and we're given access to many invaluable resources to help in the development our child as a result of this program. So it's so nice to get feedback like this when you're working really hard with families and really trying to help support them. So it's nice to hear. The feedback that we get for what people would like to see is really more. So they don't want to wait as long, and you know, they wish that they could get more time with us. So we do try to make sure that we're seeing people on a regular basis. But again, we're constrained by how many of us there are and how many kids need to be seen. So.
Hey, Katie, just a question. How many families a year are you working with?
Oh, that's a good question. I would guess it is around, it would probably be around 100. Let me see, right now, around 100 families for speech would be my guess. And probably about 50 each for occupational therapy and physiotherapy.
Oh, wow. That's quite a lot then.
It is pretty,
Yeah,
the physiotherapist, she sees a lot of kids, because really there's only the one position.
Right.
And then for speech, there are a bunch of part-time people. So I would guess that would be about the number, but I'd have to look it up.
Wow.
And what about the wait list, Katie?
So the wait list is my next slide. Perfect
Oh.
for this. So this is always something that we're striving to decrease, either through fundraising and increasing the amount of time that we have with therapists, or by offering programs a little bit differently. So especially with the occupational therapy program, we've been able to do that with groups, and we're finding it's really effective for families. But our wait list right now, so I checked this earlier today, for SLP is about 12 to 14 months. For occupational therapy, 8 to 10. And then for physiotherapy, it's on average about a month. We're able to pick those kids up right away, usually because their needs are quite significant, and it isn't things that that can wait. So
Hey,
we know
Katie,
that.
is having the Choices program providing some individualized funding, early intervention therapies, is that helping with the wait list or the wait times?
No, because we're not seeing that conflicts with what we're doing. So what we do is we see the kids over 6 in the Choices program, but for early intervention, we don't see them privately. A lot of our kids are waiting on an autism diagnosis, and so we do find a lot of the time they'll have had that happen in the meantime, and hopefully they'll have started with an intensive autism program like our ABA program and others available. So that does often happen kind of in that waiting period, depending on when they were referred.
So Katie, you were saying they pulled the public health SLPs to do, what did you say, COVID testing or something?
Contact tracing.
Contact tracing. So who does REACH serve, and who does the public health serve? How does that work?
So REACH for occupational therapy and physiotherapy, we see all children in Delta, birth to kindergarten entry. For speech, we see the speech plus kids. So we see any kids who would have speech plus another issue.
Oh, okay.
And then Fraser Health sees the speech only kids. So kids with maybe, an articulation delay, they might just be stuttering, not just stuttering, but just have that one issue. Whereas if they seem to have more going on, then Fraser Health refers them over to us. And they typically at the same time will do an occupational therapy or a physiotherapy referral. And then we know that those kids are needing more services.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Katie, I just want to start by saying I can vouch for the SLPs. They're fantastic.
Do you know
Yes, you can.
They're so good.
Yeah, especially Kathleen. Yeah, we really miss her.
I'm just trying to say that loud enough so that it resonates throughout the house. I've always wondered the funding source for the 3 programs.
So we are partially funded by MCFD, and then for the rest of the program, I don't have the percentages in my head, but it's fundraised dollars through the City of Delta, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greenie,
Our
gaming,
campaign, right? Our annual Christmas
gift of
campaign.
speech.
Yeah. Although this year it's counseling focus. Yeah. Hey, Katie, your stats for 1920 was 144 SLP kids, speech kids, 98 OT kids, and 65 PT. That's
thanks, Reed.
between, you know, March 31st, but yeah, quite significant.
Yeah, we try and fit as many kids in as we can. And it definitely is not really a dull moment in early intervention. Everybody's pretty busy, and even through COVID, you know, they just the clinicians were like, it's so hard to work online with kids. And I mean, you think of physiotherapy, it's, you know, it's really tricky, any of that hands-on stuff, but they just, yeah, they love the kids and love working with the families. So everyone's, you know, back in doing as much as they can in person when it's safe to do so. So successes in the program, just that I thought I'd highlight. We advocated with Phyllis, Reenie. I'm sure there were many others. I can't remember everyone that I talked to about this, but we did get some increased funding from the city, and that allowed us to increase our SLP services and decrease the wait time there. Telepractice has allowed us to offer more accessible groups for parent education, and we've had a lot of those groups and some really great feedback from those. The other thing I think that's a real testament to REACH and how we do things is just that we continue to have a stable group of very experienced and also innovative staff, and they collaborate really well with other programs at REACH, but also other programs in the community to provide a quality service to our kids and families. And that's my presentation.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Katie. That was great.
You're welcome.
You can't hear us all, but we're cheering.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we ask questions?
Of course.
So just a question, because I know in your slides it said we serve they have to live in Delta.
Yes.
So we also serve many children who don't live in Delta currently, right?
In other
aspects?
In other programs, yes, but not in our early intervention program.
Okay. Is that an issue, Reenie?
I mean, the center has a contract for early intervention in Surrey and Langley. We're interested in, you know, possibly working with FRAFCA just have to get on this to provide an Indigenous or develop an Indigenous program together with them. So that's probably our next, where the need is. And where we have the interest and capacity. And then, as we kind of mentioned earlier, with Katie's early intervention knowledge and her also overseeing our over 6 IF program choices there, she's been integrating pay as you go or for therapy services. So for over 6 kids, I'm not sure if there's any in Surrey now, but
yeah, I would say we get, I mean, a lot of our kids come through the ABA program and then they come to our over 6 program, but we do have quite a few families across Delta and Surrey, and even a couple across into the Langley border.
Okay. So that's been growing and filling that gap, helping to fill that gap a little bit.
Okay, but the Child Development Center in Surrey looks after that group?
They look after the early intervention kiddies under 6.
Okay,
thank you. They have a contract for it. And actually, they have part of our contract in Delta
Mhm.
too. Hey, Katie?
They do, which
and that's-
complicates things a lot for families
Yeah.
because they can be seen by us or by the center because they hold part of the contract, and we do things quite differently, though we try to maintain, you know, a certain level of similarity for the families, but depending on which center picks them up, they could actually be seen at the Center for Child Development.
So are some families double dipping to get double services?
No.
No, okay.
No, but once they know what REACH does, they prefer REACH because
Of course.
there's only 2 programs that I'm aware of in the province that have a no wait list policy for early intervention and supported child development. And the center and Fraser Valley Child Development Center, they're both large and they have a no wait list policy. So everybody gets a little bit.
Mm.
As opposed to our approach where we're working on ensuring that kids have that opportunity to reach their potential.
And provide
it's a
that
different
direct
service.
one-on-one continuing care for families.
Thanks.
So we'd like to get that from the center, the rest of Delta back from the center for sure. We've been kind of strategically planning to do that. We're just a bit nervous because in all likelihood it'll come to an RFP, and so we could risk losing what we have in order to try to make it more efficient, because extremely inefficient. Katie, you calculated the hours of time. I don't know if you remember that anymore.
I think it was about 100 hours a year that are just devoted to, you know, coordinating the wait lists, because we have to send them back and forth and send information back and forth and then coordinate who's seeing who and then transferring kids back and forth. So, and it's very confusing for families.
Yeah, it's just a historic thing that the ministry hasn't dealt with yet. So I mean, that's 8 hours a month. That's basically, you know, 8 kids getting at least a monthly service, right? Or 4 every other week that we're not able to serve because we're coordinating unnecessarily. Yeah.
I put it out there because I would love for that to happen. It would really make life a lot easier for our program, but I think also for families. So eventually we'll keep
Yeah, we just have to be ready to do an RFP and be
What's an RFP?
A request for proposals. So they'll
okay.
They'll contract, they'll put both they'll put all of Delta likely out to tender.
Okay.
And then we'd have to bid against the center, and the center is fairly well positioned in that, you know, they have a lot of therapy, and even in Delta they've got the school age in the schools, the therapy in the schools as well. So
they have, occupational therapy and physiotherapy for Delta schools.
Yeah. So we haven't jumped on it because, you know, it's like 50-50 odds at this point in time, but we are continuing to work to increase our presence through choices therapies in Surrey as well. So if we increase our presence there and in Delta, that should help to position us a little bit more, I think.
Good. Well, very good. Any more questions for Katie? Are you staying with us, Katie, or are you?
I think I'll
Go make dinner
out at this point, make some dinner.
Good.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thanks, Katie. That was great.
We'll see you again. You're welcome to come anytime.
Okay, thanks, Phyllis.